I wonder how many Tactical Nuke videos there's actually been since it got released. So there's been a few. Yeah. There's been a couple here and there, I think. I don't really want to add to the saturation of Tactical Nuke gameplay. So how about we do something a bit different? Here's 5 tips to help you get your own Tactical Nuke. What's going on, guys? It's Smudgy here, and yes, I will be today giving you 5 tips on to help you get your own Tactical Nuke within Cold War, because of course Season 3 Reloaded brought a Tactical Nuke Killstreak, only in one playlist though, of course. Don't know what that playlist is? Right off the bat, it is the Die Hardpoint playlist that you're using in the 80s Action Heroes event, so do make sure you are in that before we even get into any of the tips. So to save anyone commenting down below that they can't figure out how to do it, make sure you're in the right playlist. I feel like I say this at the start of all of these videos that are playlist specific, but I still get people commenting, so do make sure you are in the right one. Okay, so we're going to go through 5 different things: class setups, map choice, which sounds counterproductive because you're only in one playlist, and then 3 kind of gameplay specific ones. So we'll start off with class setup. This is subjective because the main takeaway from this is you have to use whatever gun is best for you and whatever gun is suited to your playstyle, but your playstyle regardless will have to kind of like bend a little bit with this playlist just because of how it plays out. Personally, the LC10 is a pretty solid choice. Really solid gun at medium push and long range in this game mode as well. Obviously shreds at closer ranges as well. You could use the AK-74U if you're more comfortable with that. I've seen a few people use the Bullfrog. Any SMG that can stretch to those medium ranges is fairly good. If that's not really your thing, you could run the XM4, the FFAR, the AK-47. I personally prefer an SMG just because it's a little bit more mobile. It gives me a little bit more scope for sliding around corners, staying out of people's lines of sight quickly. I do couple that with the Diamatis, so I have a bit of extra firepower in my back pocket. I actually run a stim shot to heal up in sticky situations, because there's nothing worse than being one shot surrounded by enemies. And I run a Semtex. I have been running field mics, but the trophy system probably works best for the purpose of getting tactical nukes alone. Just because so many people are using explosives trying to get the 80s Action Heroes challenge done, it's easier to run that. Then I run Perk Reed. I've been switching between Engineer and Tactical Mask. I actually have 2 class setups, one with Engineer, one with Tac Mask, purely for this playlist. Flat Jacket's pretty standard, I feel. Then I actually run Quartermaster and Tracker. You could run Scavenger, and I think I do on my one that has Tac Mask on. Again, that's personal preference. I don't really feel you need either of the top 2 ones, but Quartermaster is quite nice because it gives you that utility to keep replenishing. And then Ghost and Ninja, although you could run Gung Ho instead of one of these 2. Entirely personal preference. You'll know whether or not you want to run Ninja, Gung Ho or Ghost in whatever combination. That is personal preference. Those perks themselves won't do you a lot of good in terms of specifically helping you to get that tactical nuke. So if we talk about map choice, now obviously you're not going to have, a choice of map. What I'm saying when I'm talking about map choice is surfing maps. So if you get into a map that isn't the one you want, you can either play it out, use it as a warm-up, or just back out and queue up again and find a different map. I'm going to run through some of the best ones that I think it is and some of the ones I think you should avoid completely. So the first one is Armada. It's not actually that bad. I like Armada a lot because there's many places for you to kind of escape to if you are injured and you need to, heal up. It's far harder for people to hit you, especially if you're fairly familiar with the lines of sight. You can get some nasty little lines of sight on people. It makes things far easier. Cartel never comes up. Checkmate hasn't come up in Die Hardpoint once. Crossroads, I'd avoid it. I don't like it. There's too many. Despite how the game mode tries to force you to play fairly aggressive, it just doesn't work. People still sit back with M16s. Garrison is alright, a bit too chaotic really to be going on those long kill streaks. There's a bit too much variability you can't control within it. Miami Strike as opposed to Miami is a fantastic map for it. I love Miami Strike, so not the night version, the day version. That's a great map. Have I had this on Moscow? Yeah, I have. Moscow would be alright. It's probably not the best map, but it's definitely viable as opposed to something like, Crossroads. It just isn't viable whatsoever. Satellite's crap. it's so bad. It doesn't lend itself to this sort of map, because despite the map, like the game mode wanting to use push forward and get aggressive, people will still sit in the dunes with their sniper rifles. It's just not worth it. I've not had the Pines, I don't think. Nuketown is king chaos, and it's ridiculously chaotic. I can't even begin to explain. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. Apocalypse is decent as long as you have a team that's able to get some form of map control, because the last thing you want is to be spawn trapped, because it's super easy to spawn trap on Apocalypse. And whilst the spawns are pretty messed up on the majority of other maps, Apocalypse spawns seem very, very set in stone. Makes it super hard to break out with spawn traps, but also it's fantastic if you can get people into those spawn traps. Yamanatu is not bad. Again, fairly easy to get spawn traps just because of how rigid the system is there. But again, if you've got, a pretty solid team, or if you're running with a squad, it's a decent little map to try and get some kill streaks going on. Raid is fantastic for this. It's a fairly classic map, obviously. I love it. I know my way around it very well. I might be a bit biased, but I think it's fantastic. It's super easy to navigate. It's really, really easy to predict spawns for a lot of the time. They can get a bit wild towards like the more hectic hills, but they're usually not too bad. And if you know the map well enough, you'll know all the routes and all the lines of sight you need to watch out for, which makes it far, far easier. Express, again, not a bad map at all. Bit more hectic than Raid, I'd say. Especially that kind of like the ticket concierge, like the main area indoors. That's particularly hectic. It makes it very, very hard to get kills and get out with your life quite a lot. Because obviously the main thing you want to be doing is making sure you are surviving as opposed to slaying everything in front of you. Because getting a hefty old kill streak is not an easy job in this game mode. Standoff, it's doable. I don't know if it's the world's best map to get tactical nukes, but it's definitely viable. It is entirely dependent on lobby. If you have a very passive enemy team facing you, fantastic, go to town. If this enemy team is cracked out their heads and they've snorted 3 lines of G fuel, you're probably going to get smoked on here unless you have an equally cracked out team, and even then you're not going to be able to kind of rack up the necessary momentum to carry you forward. It's a very, very fun competitive map. The spawns are chalked on it. It's probably not up there in the best top like 3 maps to try and get a NUKE on. Is that all of them? Diesel's way too chaotic. Way too chaotic. Too many open lines of sight, too many grenades thrown around, even with trophy systems. Way too chaotic, and we've already covered Miami Strike. So I'd say top 3 maps to really look out for are probably... Well, I'd have to put Raid in there because that's when I got mine. I'd say Miami Strike, in all honesty. And then possibly Armada, just because of the numerous ways you can escape a sticky situation, would be my top 3 recommendations. But of course, everyone will have their own preference on their favourite map, and being comfortable on the map is the #1 thing. But let's talk gameplay real quick. So there's 3 things we're actually going to cover on gameplay. They're all I think they're all pretty much specific to the Die Hard Point playlist and what you can kind of take advantage for and utilise in that playlist. So these aren't exactly like general tips that you can take into any game mode to get a nuclear medal. These are very much specific to Die Hard Point. So obviously Die Hard Point works is every time you get a kill you get cranked, similar to the game mode in Modern Warfare. And additionally, whenever you step foot within the hard point, you get a time freeze on your crank timer. Now that's 30 seconds. And with that comes, perks. So you get like movement speed, weapon handling speed, reload speed, ADS speed, and explosive damage. Because every time you die within cranks, within Die Hard Point, you explode and do damage to the surrounding area. So the longer the kill streak, the bigger the explosion when you do eventually die. And that's the first point here is, remember, if you can explode, so can the enemies. The number of times I've been playing this map and I've like run hell to leather within like melee distance of people, getting a bit carried away. I've been on a fantastic kill streak frying people, and I might walk into a room and pick up a 2-piece and then they both explode and I die. And it's such an annoying way to go out. I understand why they've done it, is to keep the game, moving fluidly, but it's an incredibly frustrating way to die. So you want to be close enough to people so that you're in the action, so your timer doesn't run out and you explode yourself. but you don't want to be so close that you're putting yourself at risk every single kill that the enemy's going to explode and you're going to die to that. Especially if you're taking a pretty hard fight where you're both taking damage, you don't want to be one shot, win the fight and then explode and then get killed by the explosion of the enemy player. And this goes for if someone on the enemy team is on a bit of a tear, and you notice that they're going to explode with a far greater radius. So if you then go on a tear and you're fighting someone, be wary of every single player that they could have a massive explosion radius. Sit back a bit, play it a little bit more slower to try and take those mid-range gunfights as opposed to super close, just to give yourself a better chance of not getting splattered just when you've killed someone. And then the next one is talking about the actual hard point, the hill. So when you step into the hard point for the first time, so say you've just spawned in, you run to the hard point, you step into that hard point and you get 30 seconds on your timer. Now that timer will be paused as long as you're in the hard point and you'll get a boost of movement speed. You won't get any extra like buffs apart from that, but use the hard point smart. So if you've just spawned in and there's already, say your teammate's already in the hard point, you don't need to put your toe in there. You know, the movement speed buff is nice, but it's not necessary. You'd be better off getting that kill. And then sitting around the hard point holding the lines of sight, where at that point if your time is running down, you haven't managed to find anyone, you kind of essentially just dip your toe in and run out. You've reset your time to 30 seconds, elongates your life, takes some of the pressure off trying to find those kills, trying to hunt them down, and just like it stops you making stupid mistakes. Because if you see your time is on 10 seconds and you've got to fly at someone thinking that you've got to get this kill as opposed to just, you know, sticking your pinky toe in the hard point, there's risk and reward there, and quite often flying at someone will not give you the reward you want unless you're incredibly confident you can A, win that gunfight, and B, you're not going to get killed by the explosion of that player. And the final one is to utilise the cranked buffs. It gives you crazy movement speed, crazy ADS speed, crazy reload speed, and once you hit those kind of higher levels, you know, you've got all your buffs, it's really, really tempting to fly out at people, know that you're gonna skate around them and kill them, but I'd recommend holding back and getting used to it, because every time I unlocked these, the movement speed took me aback. Like, it took me a good 10 seconds to adjust to it just because you move so quickly. There's nothing wrong with just kind of taking a little bit slower once you do unlock everything, getting used to the speed, and then you can pick your fights. You can use that speed to your advantage by blasting through buildings, sliding around corners. They're not going to be able to keep up with you. So it's definitely about utilising those buffs you already have, while also being aware that at this time you're probably stomping on the enemies enough that none of them should have that massive blast radius that we talked about, because they should all kind of not be able to get on kill streaks if you've managed to pop off like that. And so it's a fantastic point at that time to start flying at people. The chances are that explosive radius shouldn't kill you. I've had a few 20 kill streaks where I have been killed on it, and it's a little bit upsetting, but regardless, it should be far easier. And you also have the added, not benefit or bonus, particularly for trying to get a tactical nuke, but a little bit of safety and knowing your explosive radius then is going to be so big that if someone kills you, the chances are you will get instant revenge, which, you know, is there's a little consolation here and there if you do get killed off a big kill streak. And that is the final tip. Those 3 gameplay tips are far shorter. It's so lobby dependent that it's very hard to give gameplay tips specific. It is all about kind of the map play, the class setup, and the lobby. And obviously you can't control the lobby unless you're going in with a cracked squad of friends. And I know not everyone, you know, has 5 other friends that are willing to go hell to leather to help them get nuke. So it is really lobby dependent. I definitely recommend lobby surfing, map surfing, making sure you are equipped with your favourite gun that you know you can fry with, and then trying to make sure you're extending that timer for as long as possible. As always, if you do have any of the tips yourself, do drop them down in the comments down below to help everyone out. As always with these videos, we do like to kind of create a community, like forum, I guess, community bank full of tips so everyone stands a chance at completing their goals. As always, if you are new here, drop a sub, find your way back. It's always nice to see you. Give it a like if you did enjoy the video. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.